Welcome for joining the meeting with such an unusual schedule. So for the next, let's say 40 minutes, or 55 minutes now, we are running a seminar on linked open data and best practice in the clean energy. In fact, this is a webinar because the three of our speakers are connected remotely. So I take the opportunity to introduce to you Florian Bauer, connected from Vienna, from the Renewable Energy and the Energy Efficiency Partnership. It's good afternoon for Florian.
Good afternoon.
Helmut Nagy from the Semantic Web Company, also based in Vienna. Good afternoon, Helmut.
Good afternoon.
And then I would say good morning to John Weirs from Denver, Colorado, from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory.
Good morning.
Okay, that's about 8 o'clock in Denver. So the seminar will have this outline. I will give a brief introduction to set a bit of the context for you to better get the message from the next presentations. And half an hour is dedicated to Florian Bauer and John Weirs, and they will report their experience on making the regal.info and open energy portals integration. 10 minutes dedicated to Helmut Nagy will report on how to make thesauri in linked data and publishing them. Then a Q&A session. And then we close the meeting. So the introduction for me about this seminar, this is a part of a consultation program which the Data.org was awarded at the beginning of this year. And while this is getting ready, there are other activities which run in parallel. And the purpose is to connect to other international organizations which are also setting their open data platform, and also to establish data connection with them. In fact, in December 2011, this year, the project faced a major turnout when they decided to adopt the RDF as a technology to achieving consolidation of fragmented statistical data. This is a technology that in fact simplifies the way you connect data with links that are made for human and machine consumption. Now, if you take the open data concept, the linked data concept, you merge them, that's when you come with a new concept which is linked open data, for which we had a key-sub meeting in the past. And one of the take-home messages back then was to break data silos to allow for more connections. In fact, the Linked Open Data Project is a worldwide initiative that is supporting several governmental organizations to connect their information system and beyond their organization borders. Now, there are several domains which are in fact influenced by the linked open data. They span from life science to government to healthcare, agriculture, media, and of course there is energy. The practical application of applying linked open data in these domains allow for improved search capabilities, data reuse and data sharing, dynamic content generation, content personalization. All of this is also in support of decision makers. So today's presentation will introduce you with the main benefits and impacts of adopting linked open data, especially for the energy sector. Then is when Florian Bauer and John Weirs will report their experience in creating the Rigo.info data portal about energy. And because this is heavily based on linked open data, it was easy for them to merge or to connect the Rigo.info data with a knowledge sharing platform named Open Energy Info, which was pre-existing to Rigo.info. Now, hoping that before leaving the stage to Florian and John, I will present you with some of the main challenges for data portals. And they in fact seek for reducing replication and maintenance effort for data, boosting interoperability among the stakeholders that participate in the data portal, leveraging then the consolidated open data for policymakers, and also making the use as part of all this process. Now, hoping that this introduction has made easy the presentation from that you will hear from John and from Florian, then I will leave the stage to them, and you can start when you're ready.
So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I'm very pleased to be one of the speakers here, and that I was invited by FAO and the Lot2 project to present Regal and our collaboration with OpenAI here in this webinar. I think the whole linked open data or linked open data topic is really important for all of us, and especially in energy it became a very important topic for several players. So what I want to show you in this presentation is I want to give you a rough overview on Regal, our clean energy information portal, and want to show you how we benefit from using open data and linked open data. And I want to tell you a little bit on why we have chosen to use these technologies. So, to start very quickly with introducing Regal. Regal is an online portal where we want to share and disseminate information from high quality information brokers. So we are not producing our own content, but we are using or we are integrating content from other key players in energy, in renewable energy, energy efficiency, and climate change. And put all this information together and make it easy accessible for users. Our main target group here is project implementers and policymakers, and we have seen a rapid increase in our user numbers since we are using the linked open data technology. I'll come back to that a little bit later. So the main 6 points for Regal is we're publishing our data in open formats, which are free for reuse. Very important for us. We are non-profit organization, and we get funding from government, so this is really important for us. We are also consuming a lot of open energy data from others, which is also very important for us. Without the other players, it wouldn't be possible to create a portal like Regal. Well, we were one of the first energy portals to enter into the linked open data cloud. Obviously, the first one was OpenAI, I think, with John presenting a little bit later. We have a very extensive thesaurus on renewable energy and energy efficiency and climate compatible development, which is an important part of our portal. I'll come back to that a little bit later. And we have one of our most successful products that we offer on Regal are country energy profiles, which are a very interesting showcase for showing you how open data, how linked open data was useful for us. Telling you a little bit about the story about how we came to open data. We're working together with the Semantic company who actually organized this webinar since about 6 years. We're working with them on Regal. Regal was a search engine on renewable energy and energy efficiency. And one day, Andreas Blumauer, one of their CEOs, came to me and said, "Look, Florian, you should think about joining the linked open data cloud and going more into open data." And I asked, well, who is doing this? And he told me, at the moment, a lot of governments and official agencies have put it on their agenda and showed me a few examples, and we read through that, and I thought, well, this could be interesting for us too. The second question I asked him is, and how do you do this? What is this all about? And he told me about using raw data, using W3C standards. You should make all open and then standardized. it's important to have human and machine readable formats and so on. I didn't understand everything of that in the beginning, but it became clearer and clearer for me, and I will hopefully in this presentation show you some of these things and make it a little bit clearer for you what this means. And finally, I asked him the question, and why do you think we should do this? And we talked a lot about transparency. So opening up data is very important to be transparent. This is especially in the field when you get public funding, very important. Also for the funders, of course. It's a more efficient public service. Well, this is also the reason why a lot of governments now start the open government data portals. Then Andreas told me about a very interesting thing. It encourages reuse of information and data. And I thought, well, this is exactly what we want to achieve. We have a portal where we share information, and we want others to reuse this information. So we should do our best to publish the information in a format that it's easy for them to do that. And finally, we came to a point where we talked about the added value that open data can bring by combining data from different sources. So we call this meshing up data. And you will see a good example in our country energy profiles. There's a lot of value in having the possibility to combine and compare and mesh up data from different sources in one place. So at this point, I was quite convinced that this is the way to go forward. And well, this was a few years ago. Unfortunately, the five-star model of Tim Berners-Lee wasn't available at this point, but now it's a very good way to explain what linked open data means. Tim Berners-Lee is the kind of the founder of the internet, and he is very, very convinced that linked open data is the way we should go. And in one of his recent presentations, he created the five-star model for linked open data. And he said, well, if we think about how we could label the different ways how you offer data with stars, similar to how you do it with hotel chains, you know, you have a one-star hotel or a five-star hotel, and you know that the five-star hotel will be much better for you. He brought up this five-star model, and this five-star model says you get 1 star if you make your stuff available on the web, whatever format. So put your PDF with your tables and graphs on the web. Brilliant, we have it on the web, it's open data, it's 1 star. But if you want to make it more better for reuse and so on, you should make it available as structured data. So not putting it in a PDF, but for example use an Excel sheet. Brings you a 2nd star. And then you get the 3rd star if you start to publish your data in non-proprietary formats, so use comma separate values instead of Excel. It makes it easier for others to reuse your information, to read the information and so on. And after the 3rd star, the linked open data part begins. So the 4th and the 5th star is what we are now doing, what we think is really important and a real benefit. The 4th star says, use URLs or UIs to identify things so that people can point at your stuff. What does that mean? That means if I have a data set with, for example, the population of Ghana, and I have it in one big Excel sheet, it wouldn't be possible to point directly to this one data for a machine or for anyone. So what he suggests is create URLs similar to your web addresses for every single data set so that you can point on every single data set. This is the 4th star. And the 5th star then is actually link your data set to other data that is already there to provide a context. In my presentation there is a link to a video from him where he explains that. I think you will get the presentation afterwards. You can watch that. It's 10 minutes. I don't want to show it now, but it's quite an interesting video. So in preparation of this webinar, I thought I'll look for some quotes from other people about how useful open data or linked open data is for them. And by just clicking on the first few entries in Google, I got 2 interesting ones. One is from the US Environmental Protection Agency. they are doing some linked open data projects, and they say government agencies could save hundreds of millions of dollars using international web standards more efficiently or effectively. And once data is available as RDF, this is a format that linked open data uses. Announced and hosted on public web servers, many people can discover and access the information. Policymakers, scientists, and the general public can benefit from the government's data collection efforts. Really important for me. So basically what I just said, as soon as these data sets are available, policymakers, scientists, the public, whoever wants to create something out of the data will benefit from that. And the second one is a short one that I found from the Web Foundation, who are actually doing a very interesting project. It's an open government data feasibility study for developing countries, who said access to data is the most interesting case in their readiness assessment. And they say data is considered as a means to control power. So for me, very, very important. We don't want to have these power in silos where you have to pay for it or whatever. If we make these data sets available, it will have big benefit for others, project implementers, whoever, especially in developing countries. So finally, I want to give you a quick run through our Regal portal as a linked open data producer and consumer. We have around 220,000 users a month now, which increased dramatically after we started with linked open data. And I will run through some of our services that we provide, and you see on the bottom right side, I have this "We Are Open" sign, and you will see next to each of the things that we provide as open data or linked open data, you will see this sign in the next slides. So the first one is a clean energy search. That is where we started Regal. We started Regal with having something similar than Google, but specialized on renewable energy and energy efficiency. There is a good way to include this search in other websites and so on. This is kind of the heart of Regal. And then we started to add open data services. And one of the main things where we started doing this are the country energy profiles. So we have profiles on each country of the world with details on key stakeholders, which we get from open data sources, with details on policy and regulations, which we get from open data sources and publish as open data, linked open data, with links to project outcome documents and so on, with statistical data visualized in charts, which we get from other open data sources and so on. So we have more than 200 countries there. It wouldn't be possible for us to maintain this information if we would have to maintain this information by our own. But we rely on others to do this by integrating their content directly via linked open data or open data, which is a brilliant way for us to provide our target group with the information by keeping our efforts down to maintain this information. We have a catalog of stakeholders, which are about 1,700 ministries, initiatives, and partnerships, also available all as linked open data. So, for example, if you decide this information is useful for you, you can very easily integrate this in your site. There is an energy and climate change glossary describing terms, linking terms to other terms, and so on. And this is a prime example of a linked open data set. We provide, for example, if you have biofuels as a data set, we describe it. There is a description. There are other links to other words, and we link this one description or this one term to other information sources like Wikipedia, like the German Environment Thesaurus, and so on. So this is a prime example of a linked open data set. And finally, we have a portal which is called data.regal.info, where you get all these data sets. So if you're interested, if you're capable in using open data, linked open data sets, you just go to data.regal.info. You find all the information on how to get these data sets. Here on the slide, you see some sparkling queries. This is a technology how you can easily get the information directly from us. So this is all available in open formats, machine-readable formats, and in licenses that allow you to reuse this information. We already had that. There is a final slide from me on these things. If you get the presentation, you can click on some of these examples. where you find all the linked open data stuff that we have and some demonstrations on how this works. And finally, I want to hand over to John now, who will tell you a little bit on OpenAI and will tell you on how Regal and OpenAI integrated their content of how we share our data sets. So you see here on the screen the so-called linked open data cloud, which is a, well, in our community, well-known visualization of open data providers. And you see Regal is there, OpenAI is there. And I'll now hand over to John to give you an introduction on OpenAI and show you how Regal and OpenAI work together. That's it for the moment. Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to answer questions afterwards.
Okay, so I apologize for the delay. Moving right into it, I'm going to talk about linked open data and our integration with Regal from the OpenAI standpoint of things, and to give you just a different angle on all the information you've been given so far. So without linked open data, a typical website, this is nothing new. The diagram on the left is basically how 95 to 99% of the websites on the internet today function. They run in what I like to call vertical stacks. Each of them has their own database, pertains to a particular website, cranking out information, publishing it to the world. In this model, all websites store information in their own databases. This is pretty typical. It should sound very familiar. All other sites, save for a few linked open data sites, have a very similar design pattern. There's a lot of duplication of effort, and there's a lot of other negative aspects, which you're going to explore here in a little bit of detail. If you wanted to, let's say, import some of Regal's country profiles in the old model, you would probably download that data set via CSV or Excel file and then upload it into your data set and write all the necessary code to publish that back out to the web. And that's what's sort of illustrated here by the 2 1s on the data sets, denoting that they're both version 1 of a particular data set that's been downloaded and re-uploaded. In this particular case, you've duplicated the work that the other site has done, and you've now limited yourself, because what can happen is if the original site updates their content, and you don't update, there's a potential for the online community to be presented with conflicting information. And the question becomes, internet goers, users of the community of energy data, how are they supposed to know which one's accurate? Linked open data solves this problem by not only tagging data with the proper metadata and timestamps and things, but also by just making it a lot easier for data to be passed around and preventing the need for duplication, which prevents the possible errors that we're seeing here. So in the linked open data model, data sets are actually shared behind the scenes. Each site can focus on the key data that it wants to focus on and import all the supplemental data. I will show you a real-world example of that in a moment for OpenAI, where we have a ton of renewable information in our country profiles. We import some of Regal's country information, and there's a lot of ancillary or just sort of extra information like that's pertinent to the cause, such as population of a country or gross domestic product, that we just plain don't want to be in charge of. I don't want to have to update my database every time somebody gets born in another country. I'd much rather allow the World Factbook or somebody else who tracks that information more regularly to provide it to me. So that's exactly what linked open data is about. In this model, the databases are linked behind the scenes. So at the database level, think of linked open data as just exposing an entire database to the web and providing other sites with the ability not only to access that data, but to query it, to use it, to build upon it. just like you would a normal database. You're not passing a piece of finished web content over, you're passing the raw data. So the other sites can then manipulate that data however they want and use it however they see fit, displaying it, matching their personal themes, etc. And so in this model, if the original site is updated, it's instantly updated on the other site. So there's no lag. There's, well, save for microseconds of internet transmission lag, no lag, and no possibility for confusion amongst the community. Additionally, other websites, such as third-party sites, can then link into those data sets and without any data sets of their own, produce new and unique content, mashing up the data, as Florian was saying earlier, to form innovative content or new products or drive future industry and create business and things like that. With linked open data, a much better picture. The earlier version without passing the CSV around definitely is the 2 or 3 star method, without getting too technical about it. And this is the 5-star method. Just to give you a little background on OpenAI before I jump into our real-world example, OpenAI is a free and open knowledge-sharing platform. It was founded as part of the U.S. government's Open Government Initiative under the Obama administration, and has really launched into quite a collection of all sorts of information. I recently attended a hackathon and had a really hard time motivating students to use our data sets because they were just so overwhelming. We have over 800 open and free data sets. Many of them are available semantically, not all of them. As I'm sure you'll discover when you venture down this path, some data sets can be a little tricky to convert, but most of them are really easily converted. We have over 56,000 content pages, 17.2 million RDF triples. That's another linked open data term you'll hopefully become familiar with. And a whole slew of information available on OpenAI. It's actually built on the same underlying technology as Wikipedia, but it's better to think of OpenAI more as a platform of platforms than just a semantic wiki. We have our datasets area, like I mentioned. We have a big linked open data portion with lots of APIs and an additional to our Sparkle endpoint, lots of other products. And we just launched an app section displaying a whole bunch of apps that have been built on our data, related to our data, or just related to open energy in general. And a lot going on for OpenAI. So jumping right into linked open data on OpenAI, as people mentioned in the past, we were one of the first energy platforms out in the linked open data community. The community has grown almost exponentially in the 2 or 3 years we've been playing in it. And one of the best things that's come out of our linked open data arena is our partnership with Regal. You can see right here one of our country profiles. Just behind the pop-out that says Regal is our population and things I was talking about earlier. But right beneath the map is Regal's policy and regulatory overviews embedded right in our page. And you can see we formatted it there ourselves so we can make it look however we want. And that data is being pulled in real time from Regal. And the way it works is I'm about to show you, but before I do that, I just wanted to direct your attention to the lower left of the screen. This is a very recent quote from IBM on the importance of linked open data and why it's necessary. Let you read that yourself. Pretty self-explanatory. They often refer to it as the tidal wave of data coming our way. If 90% of the data has been created in the last 2 years alone, and that is not changing. It's definitely, it's changing, but it's not going down. It's definitely an exponential increase in the amount of data created every year. And one of the many reasons people should adopt linked open data is in the very near future, It will be one of the only ways to sustainably use and work with data. We have here at the National Renewable Energy Lab databases on wind towers collecting wind speeds for every minute for every tower in the U.S. at various elevations, and we're talking terabytes of data flowing through every hour or two, and it's just an absurd amount of data. You can imagine exposing that database as linked open data, which is something we're talking about, would be a fantastic resource, but if you were to try and download it as a PDF or a CSV, it would be impossible to use that data. Well, not impossible, it would just probably take 55 years to download it or something. So how does this all work? Well, behind the scenes, Regal has a Sparkle endpoint. Now, what a Sparkle endpoint is, Sparkle is a query language. It's pretty complex, and you definitely need a developer who's either very experienced or has some experience in Sparkle to play with it. But it queries RDF triples, which are the linked open data technology Florian was speaking about. So Regal has exposed their database, including their policy and regulatory overviews for each country in their Sparkle endpoint. And with once versed in Sparkle, with just 3 or 4 lines of Sparkle code, we can actually query that and import it right into our country pages. So if I were to show you the code for the country page, it would be surprisingly small and simple. I'm not going to do that though, because I don't want to bore you all. But I will talk a little bit about the advantages of linked open data. So we've seen this from 2 different angles now. A lot of these are a recap of earlier presentations, but one of the ones I really like to touch on is the first one, the focused efforts. Authors of a website can display relevant information on a topic, but focus on providing only that which they consider themselves to be subject matter experts of. That's really important in NREL's case. For example, I mentioned earlier, we're not in the business of tracking the population of each country, nor do we want to be. But we are in the business of measuring renewable potential, so it allows us to focus our time and effort on that. And then we can rely on other agencies to give us population. We can rely on Regal to provide us with policy, and we can focus our efforts on providing the best renewable assessments out there. Avoid duplication, that's easy. Reduce maintenance and effort. Management types really like this one. There's a huge cost savings associated with adopting linked open data. Once it's set up and the linkage is there, you're relying on your source to update the data. Updates in real time on your system. And then instead of maintaining an entire database or data within a database, you're just maintaining a link. And once it's built, it's only slightly more complicated than a regular HTML link. So, semantic linkages and interoperability concepts become part of the semantic web. This is the other thing I was talking about with third parties being able to mash up data. This is huge because it really allows other agencies to collaborate on things and take your data places you've never imagined it would go. That's all I have. Thank you very much for your time. I will pass the presenter back to Claudio.
So you now should see my screen, so it will not be a presentation. I just show how should I get it? I show how we create a bit how we created the thesaurus that was mentioned before by Florian from Rigi, and go through the glossary that has been published there as an example, and I will show another example where thesaurus has been published using the linked data frontend. So obviously the tool we made the thesaurus with is Full Party. It's a thesaurus management tool developed by the Semantic Web company. This is a test environment, so I just uploaded a copy of the Rigi thesaurus, and you can see here the backend where the thesaurus manager are working, and maybe I just show an example of a concept we have here. Poolpart is fully based on the semantic web standards, so its costs. I just take this one. So it's costs that's used here, and for creating the vocabulary, and doubling core vocabulary for the metadata. And in Poolpart we also have the ability, you can see it, I have to switch here, this one, I have to switch the view. We have the ability to link to other linked data sources. So as we can see here, this concept solar panels, we have here the tree of the hierarchic view of the thesaurus, and this concept has here broader, narrow, and related concepts. We have some preferred label and an alternative label, and even a definition that has been created by Regal. And it's linked to other concepts, for example, from DBpedia, but also from Freebase. And I just show here in the linked data tab, we again see the links we got, and we see other data that has been fetched from DBpedia. These are, for example, thumbnails and things like that. So all this management can be done here. And basically, for every project, you have an Sparkle endpoint. Let's see. Here, this is the project is not public here, so I just switch it. Yeah. So now we have a Sparkle endpoint where you can fetch the data from, and also every project has a linked data from. But for this Regal thesaurus, this Regal cursory that has been mentioned, what is used here, so this is the starting page, so we have an index of the terms, or we can search for terms. I take the same one that we had before, and what we see now is we have in the thesaurus, we have the Regal definition, but we have the link to Wikipedia, and from there we fetch, so we create even a mashup here. We fetch the definition from Wikipedia, and there's a visualization where you can also browse and switch to other concepts. And we display the related terms, the broader terms, and the narrow terms. So not all the information that's in the thesaurus is used here. But it's a fine example, and you can also, this is the human readable view as it is demanded by the linked data publishing strategy, or also this is, I would say, 5 stars from the Tim Berners-Lee 5 stars model, and you can also get the RDF, and that would be of the same concept, the machine readable view. For this one, not the linked data front that is used, but it's a used front end integrated in the Regal website. So I just show another example. This is from the education area. Sorry, already had 10 minutes. Okay, yeah, no problem. I hand over back to you, Claudio, for the final words and for the question and answering.
My question is, this has got some potential big advantages, but you've become very dependent on the suppliers of the other data. How can you ensure that they are going to continue to supply the data? Do you have some agreement through the LOD kind of partnership that they will continue to make this data available? Otherwise, pieces of your system will fall over.
Well, for us, this is Florian. For us, we don't have agreements, but we have chosen our data providers very carefully. So the data providers that we are using to directly integrate data into Regal are ones where we have a very high confidence level that they will continue to update their data and continue to exist. Some examples are OpenAI, of course, World Bank, UN, and so on. Eurostats. So yes, you definitely have to have a look on where you consume your data from. We don't have any written agreements that they are obliged to continue to provide their services, but we strongly believe that this will happen because, well, it is necessary, and the organizations are big, well-known organizations who will continue to provide the data sets.
This is John Weers from OpenAI. Just adding on to that, in addition to, like Florian said, selecting our data providers carefully, there's also a few technical measures we've taken on our end to cache responses we get from Sparkle endpoints for a day or two, just in the event that if a Sparkle endpoint goes down, we have slightly outdated versions of the responses that we can display instead while the various sites get back up and running.
Hello. Yeah, you said in the audio file that you aim at publishing data free for use, and that there is a policy through the Readwell website whereby licensees allow this reuse. The point is, do you control this policy because you have agreed with all the providers of information that you just mentioned before that this is a commonly agreed policy? Or have you an intelligent way, programmatic way to find out that all these providers agree on this policy aspect?
Well, I think the key on that is that it has to be very clear for each data provider which license they use for publishing the data. So when we decide that we include, for example, the UN data sets, we first have a look on their licenses and make sure that they fit with our license model and only include the data if they allow us to do what we want to do. And on the other hand, this is our in our view as a consumer of data. Speaking with the hat on of being a linked open data provider, for us it is very, very important to make it very clear and obvious what license we use. So each of our data sets has the information on the license in the data set itself. So it is very easy for people who are reusing our data sets to automatically decide if the license is fitting with their policies. In our case, it's the UK Open Government Data License, which allows to reuse our information, our data, how they want by just contributing that they got it from Rico.
So before closing and thanking, I would present you with the follow-up of this webinar, and that we are running now a pilot work on transforming the central product classification in RDF, so the format that you have just seen, so to better integrate this with the data.how.org. And we are doing this in collaboration still with the LUT2 project as part of the consultation program. As well, we are looking for a linked data model to transport social content which is generated through the data.how.org portal. Essentially, it is the user's feedback on the quality of the data or the quality of the content. We will run a second seminar, as I said at the beginning, which is a practical view of how some of the tools that Helmut has showed us help impact to produce the CPC in RDF. Most importantly, organizing this seminar has opened the door for a potential collaboration and opportunity for FAO Energy Group as to repeat the experience already made by Rico, and this means to produce energy statistical data in linked data format. This will have multiple benefits. First of all, it will create the data sets to be fastly and better integrated with our portal, but also in this occasion we can approach issues which are somehow typical of the energy sector, which is the definition and the description of energy data, so to improve searchability, as the report has shown. Also, when this data will be produced in RDF, it is possible that they will join the network of the OpenAI portal, and so not only contribute but also get, as we've seen, as you might probably have understood, also get the benefits of being in that network, because they can retrieve the data that complements power energy data. And so now we're running, I think we are on schedule to close this meeting, and I want to thank you for the audience here for being until the end. Nobody had left the room, which is a good thing, although the technology didn't help us very much. And I want to thank the remote speakers and remote attendees, Helmut, John, and Florian, for the very interesting input that you gave us.